talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack grid. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Yes, we welcome you in on a Monday, a brand new week of the 5-pack. Although I'll tell you right from the start, it is really not a brand new week. It is the start of the week. It is a Monday. Unfortunately, this will be our only get-together this week. I've got the rest of the week off after today. So no pack breaks after we break open this pack. We've got 1992 Topps Stadium Club. An early 90s edition that was quite popular and some very attractive cards. Plenty of youngsters, Hall of Famers. We will rip through this pack coming up in just a bit. Again, no show, at least for us, for the remainder of the week after today. But fear not, everybody here at BSN teaming up to cover for me. So there will still be programming wherever you want to hunt us down at. Big thank you to our producer, Heather Klein. Hope everybody had a wonderful week. It was a hot one here. I'm ready to get to some cool air. So I'm going to head to Chicago and enjoy some 70-degree temperatures. A big improvement over what we're dealing with here in the middle of the Midwest. As for what we're doing today on the 5-pack, well, you guessed it. We got 5 things that matter. We have 5 things that will matter. And, of course, our ever-popular pack rip. Again, 1990 Topps Stadium Club Baseball is coming your way in just a bit. Let us begin with our 5 things that matter. And it's very easy to predict where we are starting today. Yes, indeed. We are starting with Game 2 of the NBA Finals. And I said this last Friday. Remember on Thursday night, Game 1, Denver pretty well dominated against Miami. And I heard many people, a lot of famous writers, a lot of famous talkers. They were like, oh, it's going to be a sweep. Nuggets are going to get the broom out and it will be over before we can get settled in. Now, I told you this on Friday. Don't buy that crap. What I tell you, to me, the Heat, they still have a shot. I don't care how bad they looked on Thursday night. They didn't play worth a darn, and they actually still had a puncher's chance at one point in the fourth quarter. Not a good chance, but they got it to single digits, and they were terrible on Thursday night. So I said here on Friday, I said, I still believe in the Heat. Well, last night, I guess some more people will believe in the Heat. Miami pulling off a 111 to 108 victory in Denver. They were actually trailing by 8 points entering the fourth quarter on the road with the threat of falling down 2-0. And then they got rolling with Duncan Robinson.
What's going to be the difference in the fourth to take a 2-0 series lead?
This has to be our best quarter defensively. Simply stated, we can't give up open threes. And what's been plaguing us all night is the miscommunication and lack of discipline, giving them wide open shots.
He shortened his rotation because he earned sitting on the sideline.
Duncan Robinson drives and finishes.
I am so impressed with the improvement by Duncan Robinson off the dribble.
We've been watching Kyle Lowry do that for 17 years. Robinson fires and hits a three-pointer. Duncan Robinson 3 for 3, all here to start the fourth quarter, and it's a 2-point game. Miami's overcome a 15-point deficit. Duncan Robinson drives and finishes. Another tough shot. 10 straight points by the Heat.
That's Miami right there. Duncan Robinson. What is he, like the 5th, 6th, 7th option on that offense? And they come out in the fourth quarter last night down by 8, and Duncan Robinson goes on a tear. Now, that was his moment. It's not like he had a great first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. That was his moment, start of the fourth quarter. So Miami turns that big deficit into a lead. And at the end, they had to hold on late against the Nuggets. Nuggets down by 3 with the ball.
Should the Heat foul here?
I'm taking a foul. I'm not allowing them to get off a 3.
Denver does have a timeout, but they're not using it. 4 seconds. Murray, step back, three-pointer. Won't go. Fight for the rebound, Martin, and it's over. The Miami Heat have tied the NBA Finals. What a comeback here on the road for the Heat.
That's a winner for Miami on the road. The first loss at home this postseason by the Denver Nuggets. As for Miami, they were led by Gabe Vincent, 23 points. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, both those guys had 21. You saw Nikola Jokic walking off the court despondently there. Jokic had 41 points, and it was interesting last night. In effect, the Miami Heat said, we will let Nikola Jokic be the offense, be the shooter for the Nuggets. We will not allow Nikola Jokic to set up the other Nuggets. And when you look at the box score last night, you see a very different box score from game 1 with the Nuggets to game 2 with the Nuggets. Guys like Aaron Gordon, like Michael Porter Jr., even Jamal Murray, who missed that shot at the end. Those guys weren't a factor in game 2. And what happened is Miami said, you know what, we're going to let Jokic do his thing, but we're not going to let these other guys beat us. And they did make a starting lineup change. Kevin Love was in that starting 5 for the Miami Heat. He did not start in game 1. He did in game 2. He led the Heat in rebounds last night with 10. So a big win, obviously, for Miami. Now, next up is game 3. It's going to be on Wednesday night. ABC, who you provided the footage there, they're going to have the broadcast, of course, from South Beach, 8:30 with the start there. Of note is what was said after the loss last night by the Nuggets. Michael Malone, head coach of Denver, really let his team have it in the locker room, telling them that, in effect, they didn't have any emotion. They weren't trying. They screwed up. This is the NBA Finals. He kind of carried forth with that message when meeting with the media after last night's loss.
Now let's talk about effort. I mean, this is the NBA Finals, and we're talking about effort. That's a huge concern of mine. You know, and you guys probably thought I was just making up some storyline after game 1 when I said we didn't play well. We didn't play well. And tonight, you know, that the starting lineup to start the game is 10-2 Miami. Start the third quarter. They scored 11 points in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And we just got, you know, we had guys out there that were just, whether feeling sorry for themselves for not making shots or thinking they can just turn it on or off. This is not the preseason. This is not the regular season. It's not round. This is the NBA Finals. And that to me is really, really perplexing, disappointing. And I asked the team, I asked our players, you guys tell me why we lost. And they knew the answer. Miami came in here and outworked us. And we were by far our least disciplined game of these 16 or 17 playoff games, whatever it is now. So many breakdowns, and they exploited every one of those breakdowns and scored. So if we're going to try to go down there and regain control of this series and get home court advantage back, we're going to have to outwork Miami, which we didn't do tonight, and our discipline is going to have to be off the charts.
That's pissed off coach there. Michael Malone for the Denver Nuggets. Game 3, as noted, is going to be on Wednesday night. So the way the NBA Finals work, you get the first 2 in Denver. Next 2 are in Miami. Game 5 in Denver, Game 6 in Miami, Game 7 in Denver. So a lot of best of 7s. You'll see a 2-3-2 format. This format is 2-2-1-1-1, which to me does make for a more entertaining and probably longer lasting series. We should note for Game 3, if you look at the early odds, Denver is favored by 2.5 points to get the win against Miami. And the series odds still have Denver in a pretty strong position. Minus 275, I should note, is the number for Denver to take the series. It's plus 225 if you want to get in on Miami. So again, a couple days off. They'll travel out to Florida and then get going on Wednesday night. Let's move to our second item that matters on this Monday. We go to the world of baseball, where we had a couple of entertaining walk-offs on Sunday, and they were entertaining because they weren't the traditional walk-offs. They were actually Grand Slam walk-offs. Let's go to the first one on the south side of Chicago yesterday.
That'll do it! And it is gone! A Grand Slam again!
Fun times in Chicago. Fun weekend in Chicago. That team has been one of the bigger disappointments in all of baseball. I don't know that anybody looked at the Chicago White Sox this year and said, okay, that's a playoff team. But they did look at the Chicago White Sox and say, that's a team that should contend for the playoffs. Well, they get the win yesterday, 6-2. Jake Berger, by the way, with that walk-off on Chicago Sportsnet. Berger, by the way, if you own him in a fantasy league, I think he's got like 11 home runs at home this year. He doesn't do anything on the road, but the guy is like Coors Field when he gets back to U.S. Cellular Park, or excuse me, Guaranteed Loan Rate Park, I think it's what it's called. Anyway, 6-2 victory for the White Sox yesterday. They get a sweep against Detroit. With that sweep, they improve their record to 26-35. Now, you might say to yourself, when you're 9 games under 500 like the White Sox are, you're not really in it, are you? Oh, you are in it in the American League Central. Even though they're 9 games under 500, they are only 5.5 back of first place Minnesota. The odds to win the AL Central at this very moment, if you go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook, plus 900 for the White Sox. And again, they're 5.5 back. And I get it. They were a huge disappointment last year. They are again this year. You know, Lance Lynn looks terrible. They have guys injured all the time in their lineup. But if you just look at the roster and you say, well, these guys are healthy, like they're kind of in it. And the White Sox, even if you don't care about the White Sox and you're not rooting them on, you have no rooting interest, they are a team to keep an eye on because they probably more than anybody else in Major League Baseball could truly dictate how the Major League Baseball trading deadline goes. Because if the White Sox decide to bail on the season and empty out the cupboard, it's going to open a lot of trade options come late July. So again, right now the record is bad. The record says, okay, trade these guys. But the standings say, no, let these guys play. They're just 5.5 out. And if they were to get a hot streak, you know, you win 6 of 8 or something, Minnesota loses 5 of 8, you know, you're making a run then. You're within 3, you're within 2. So the White Sox, a very important team as we go through this month of June and into the month of July. Anyway, that was one walk-off grand slam yesterday involving a couple of teams that aren't doing that well. The other walk-off grand slam involved a couple of teams that are doing very well this week. And in fact, they had a fun weekend series down in Phoenix, Arizona. Last couple of games going to the Atlanta Braves. The second of those 2 wins over the weekend coming yesterday when Eddie Rosario was at the plate with 2 strikes on him, 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning, and his team down by 1.
1-0 pitch on the way. Swung on to the fly ball to right field. Going back now, Smith. Smith's at the wall. Grand slam! Grand slam! Rosario with a huge homer, and the Braves take the lead. And he touches them all. And the Braves are on top 8-5 in the 9th.
I said walk-off. I guess it's not a true walk-off, but it was a grand slam that gave the Braves the win. They took care of business in the bottom of the 9th inning, and they now get set for a homestand against the Mets. No game today, but tomorrow, Mets and Braves are meeting in Atlanta. I was just going through those AL Central standings in the NL East. Again, it's just kind of a perception thing. Like I say, wow, the White Sox are only 5.5 out. As bad as they played, they're only 5.5 out. And you say, not bad odds. The Mets are coming to Atlanta to take on the Braves. Braves are now 35-24, by the way. That's the best record in the National League with that victory yesterday. Braves will be hosting the Mets, first of 3 tomorrow night. Mets are currently 500. They're 30-30. They were swept over the weekend by Toronto. They enter this series against the Braves down in Atlanta out by 5.5 games. To kind of dictate the importance here, with this more balanced schedule, and we're seeing this a lot, and I have no problem with this. I know some people are now saying, oh, it's unfair. We don't get these Yankees Rays matchups. We don't get these Jays Orioles matchup or Dodgers against the Padres. Oh, the balanced schedule. The Mets and the Braves will not play again until August 21st. So after the 3-game set this week, these 2 behemoths in the NL East are not going to play for more than 2 months. Now, again, some people have an issue with that. I really don't. I mean, honestly, 12, 13 games over the course of the season between the Braves and the Mets? That's enough, okay? It kind of stinks that you go 2 months without meeting each other, but it does raise the importance of this series for the Mets. God forbid they would get swept. That would be back-to-back sweeps against the Blue Jays and the Braves. But if that were to happen, all of a sudden you're 3 games under 500, which is about 15 fewer victories than the Mets thought they would have by now, at least 10. But you could be like 3 games under 500. You could be 8.5 back, and you don't get to take on the Braves again until late August. So pressure on for the Mets. We'll see how it works out. Again, tomorrow night, game 1 of that series. But the Mets and the Braves are off on this Monday. Let's go to item number 3, and we might as well go back to the AL Central because one of the teams that is contending for the AL Central crown, yes, it's still a race, even though all the teams are kind of bad. It's still a race. The Cleveland Guardians, they were up in Minnesota this weekend. Guardians had a very important 4-game set going up against the Twins, trying to catch them in the AL Central. Thursday and Friday, Minnesota won. Saturday, Cleveland won. And on Sunday, Cleveland got another victory to garner the 4-game split. And they did it behind the return of Tristan McKenzie.
I know he's thrilled to death. You look at his numbers last year, 11-11, a 2.96 ERA, and he doesn't give up many hits.
Tristan McKenzie with a 1-ball, 2-strike pitch. And a weak ground ball to second. Jimenez will throw him out.
Here's Royce Lewis, the designated hitter today. Another 1-2 to Lewis.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out. 2 down.
And there's another guy that throws the fastball. You look at the radar gun, and he gets fastballs by a lot of hitters.
Same high fastball that he swung through for strike 1, 2 down. That'll bring up Solano.
The pitch. Swing and a miss. Got him with a slider. You can't be any more impressive than Tristan McKenzie was here in inning number 1.
2-2 on Jeffers. No score, bottom 2, 1 out.
Chased a high fastball, and that's 3 strikeouts now for Tristan McKenzie. 2 down in the second.
5 up, 5 down for the Twins, and here is Farmer, no score.
Got him swinging on a slider. So McKenzie has struck out 4 out of the 6 Twins he's faced.
He would go on for quite an effort. Tristan McKenzie, in his season debut, 10 strikeouts in 5 shutout innings. He only gave up a hit. Cleveland gets a 2-1 victory against Minnesota. I don't know about you, but when I see Tristan McKenzie, don't you just think to yourself, eat a hamburger, dude. Man, he is a tall drink of water, as we like to say. Man, oh man. But he was throwing gas last night in his return to the rotation. Now, Cleveland has had a weak season. They were the favorite coming in to the year to win the AL Central. Now they're totally in this thing. Absolutely in this thing. Their offense has not performed. Their pitching has been really good. The bullpen has been strong this year. And now that you have McKenzie, you've got a very good 1-2 with McKenzie and Bieber. If you look at Savali, Adam Savali, the dude's made 3 starts and they've all been really good. He was coming off the IL too. So he's been a decent 3. And then they've got a couple of rookies. They've got Logan Allen and Tanner Bibby. Now, you look at these 2 rookies. They have made 15 combined starts already this season. And combined, they've got an ERA of 3. They are both striking out a batter per 9. What I'm getting at is that Cleveland is still in a pretty solid position in the American League Central. They get McKenzie back. They still have Bieber. The other pieces look good. The bullpen's solid. The hitting has got to get better. I mean, they have been very unproductive this season, but it has to improve at least by, 10, 20% would kind of change the outlook. All of this leads up to the fact that right now you can get the Cleveland Guardians at plus 340 to win the AL Central. Now, again, the White Sox are plus 900. Kind of tempted by those odds, to tell you the truth, but the plus 340 is a pretty good spot for the Guardians, and they just continue. I talk about Allen, talk about Bibby, even Savali, McKenzie, all these guys, Bieber. None of these guys were considered like superstar prospects coming up, but again, Cleveland has had this knack for probably at least a decade. Kind of goes back to Corey Kluber. They bring up guys on the pitching side that just performed. Few of them are great. You get a Kluber, you get a Bieber. Most of them are just good, are solid. And if your 3, 4, 5 is solid, you're ahead of like 80% of baseball. And that has always been Cleveland's MO. We haven't necessarily gotten the hitting, but the pitching is still there with Cleveland. So certainly a team to watch, plus 340 right now for the odds. By the way, Minnesota and Cleveland have now played 7 games against each other this year. The scoring differential is 2. 18 runs for the Guardians and 16 for the Twins. Those two teams neck and neck in terms of the season series this season. Let's go to item number 4. We mentioned Tristan McKenzie still in the early stages of his MLB career. Good to see him back on the mound. Item number 4 reminds us that nothing is guaranteed, even if you've had a good career for the most part. We give you the case of Steven Strasburg. Remember him? Yeah, he's still trying to pitch. Unfortunately, we got news yesterday out of Nationals camp that Steven Strasburg is now dealing with severe nerve damage. He's pretty well done for this year, and the feeling is, amongst the Nationals and pretty well everybody in baseball, we may never see Steven Strasburg pitch again. Like, seriously. And the injuries are one thing. Like, you go back to 2019 when the Nationals had that great run in the postseason, won the World Series. They had Scherzer, they had Corbin, they had Strasburg, the big three just killing it. Well, obviously, Scherzer's moved on. Corbin has been a bit better this year, but he's kind of just been a bad pitcher ever since 2019. And then there's the case of Strasburg. Since being named the World Series MVP in 2019, Steven Strasburg has made 9 starts. 2020, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. It's 4 years of baseball. 9 starts. Steven Strasburg is now 34 years old. Steven Strasburg, and look at the money. Oh my goodness. Now, hey, this is why you have insurance, and there are insurance clauses with players like this. When you sign a giant contract, the team will insure that contract. You might remember with the New York Mets, David Wright signed a big contract with the Mets and then just had awful back issues, I think it was, for like 4 or 5 years, and really didn't play again for the Mets. And they clawed back a lot of the money they owed to Wright through insurance. Well, I bring that up because the Nationals are going to have to do that. Like, Steven Strasburg this year isn't going to throw a pitch in the majors, almost certainly. He's still going to make $35 million. And guess what? He's going to make $35 million in 2025, 2026, and 2027. Excuse me, 24, 25, and 26. He's got 3 more years left. $105 million still coming his way. And as long as he doesn't retire, he gets that money. Now, again, I would suspect the Nationals have insurance on Steven Strasburg. And here's the thing. Strasburg overall, has he had a great career? No. I remember I was on the airwaves. This is decades ago, pretty well. When Steven Strasburg made his debut, I remember it was like a midweek game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I remember saying that if Steven Strasburg fails to make it to Cooperstown, it will have been a disappointment, because that is the level of hype that this guy had. You know, he was the savior. He was the #1 overall pick. And right now, he ain't making Cooperstown. I would feel almost certain making that bet. Here's a crazy number with Steven Strasburg. At this point in his career, and again, he's 34. He's 13 years in. Really, 14 years if you count this season. 34 years old. He has made 247 major league starts. Which, hey, you give anybody 250 starts, you say, okay, that's good. And again, I'm not saying Strasburg's been a bust, and I get it, injuries and all that. But he's made 247 starts. Right now, he will walk away from his major league career, whenever that is, whether it's this year or beyond. He will walk away with $250 million in career earnings. Let me say that again. 247 career starts, $250 million. That's some good getting if you're Steven Strasburg. Bad news, I am told by our producer, Heather, the Nationals do not have insurance. Even the insurance companies wouldn't insure Steven Strasburg. They looked at the medical records, they looked at the money, and they said, nah, you want insurance? It's going to cost you. And we know the Nationals, even though they have like the richest owner in baseball, or they did. Now Steve Cohen's the richest guy. But the Nationals, they're not known for wanting to spend money. They spent it on Strasburg. They weren't going to insure it. So bad news. Bad news. Not even insurance can save you, Nationals. I'm sorry. Bad news for Strasburg, too. And again, I guess, what was it, one start last year? That may go down as his last major league start, believe it or not. From one player, an athlete who is perhaps concluding their career, to another player, an athlete who is just starting up their career. If you caught the 5-pack last week, I warned you about this. I gave you the lowdown. Now everybody's talking about it today. Talking about Rose Zhang. Who is Rose Zhang? Well, again, if you watched the 5-pack last week, you know. LPGA rookie. Stanford. Stud at the NCAA tournament level. She's won back-to-back titles. She was making her debut on the LPGA tour this past weekend in New Jersey. And guess what? Guess what? In her debut, she won the whole damn thing. Here's the final shot. Playoff round to win the tournament in New Jersey.
Rose Zhang is here, and she is here to stay. In her first start as a professional, she wins the Mizuho Americas Open. Stanford teammate Megagane.
The first golfer in the LPGA history since 1951 to win their first ever start. And again, she did it in a playoff. I think she was up 2 strokes going into yesterday. She was the leader after 3 rounds, forced it into a playoff. That was the second hole of the playoff, and she does emerge victorious. It was announced very quickly after the win yesterday that she would now become a permanent member of the LPGA. And guess what? She gets to stay right there in New Jersey. The LPGA Classic is coming up this weekend. So she's got 1 start, 1 victory. She spoke about Sunday and kind of the excitement surrounding it after the big victory and after securing the trophy.
Liberty National is already a very difficult course to be playing on, and especially with the winds gusting up in the afternoon. Afternoon tee times are always hard on here. But for me, I really just had to stay composed throughout the round. You know, when you're under pressure, birding is very difficult. And going at flags, sometimes it's just not smart. And I didn't really give myself the most opportunities that I have given myself the prior days. So I've just been scrambling for pars, and I'm fortunate to have really grinded throughout the round and only managed 2 bogeys, but I thought I played pretty solid throughout the day. My swing was a little bit fumbled, but apart from that, I was putting pretty well, and my wedge game has really helped me.
20 years old and already a winner on the LPGA Tour. Now, last week when I spoke about Rose Zhang, we invoked another name of another guy who was really young when he showed up in the golf world. He had come from Stanford, just like Rose Zhang. You know who we're talking about, right? Tiger Woods. It's very unfair. We can't call her the Tiger Woods of the LPGA, but it's a damn good start. And look who tweeted about Rose Zhang's victory on Sunday. The one and only Tiger Woods. There it is. Tiger Woods even enjoying the Rose Zhang runaway train. She won her 2nd consecutive NCAA title like a month ago. And now she's winning as a pro on the LPGA Tour. We had a tiger, now we get a rose in the year 2023. Okay, those are the 5 things that do indeed matter on this Monday. On the flip side, we will give you 5 things to prep for tonight and beyond, kind of for the week to come. 5 things that will matter. Before any of that, though, let's get an NBA Finals take from our man, Corey Parson.
All right, the NBA draft is quickly approaching, and obviously in most sports circles, everybody falls in love with young talent. But I want to tell you about what the Miami Heat are doing right now in their run to the finals, this Heat culture. Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love, 2 longtime veterans, have been playing big roles for the Miami Heat. So no, it's not their young stars that's getting it done. Obviously, Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler are the core of the Miami Heat. But what Lowry and Love has been able to do has been particularly impressive. Now, it doesn't really show up in the stat sheet, but Lowry's clutch genes and big-time three-pointers have helped the Miami Heat get this far. Lowry's in his 18th season. Kevin Love, who's in year 16, much like Lowry, timely rebounds, key shots that have been critical for the Miami Heat. So I say to you, before you run to throw your veterans away, make sure you got people on your roster like Lowry and Love if you plan on winning an NBA championship. Because that Miami Heat culture is more than just those young players. Crafty veterans who can help you win are going to be very important to championship rosters in the future. Here are your comments and your thoughts on what we've seen from Lowry and Love so far this postseason. While you're down there, check out a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
You know, speaking of things that matter, later tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, make sure to fire up the Better Sports Network app at 8 o'clock, because tonight we have some pub trivia. Pub Trivia Bettercast is coming your way. Fantasy football and football in general trivia. I think the theme tonight, by the way, is Dungeons and Dragons. That would eliminate me from having a shot at the trivia. I probably wouldn't handle things well. Simon, Joey, and Tim with you tonight. And again, that is app only. Testing your fantasy football knowledge. We got the community jumping in there. You can converse back and forth, win some prizes, all that good stuff. And again, that'll be on the BSN app. I know a lot of you watch via our website, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're at. But that pub trivia tonight at 8 o'clock is app only. Coming up in just a few, about 10-15 minutes from now, we will open up and rip open our pack of Topps Stadium Club 1992 baseball. Before any of that, though, we have 5 things that will matter. Starting with number 1, tonight in Las Vegas, Nevada, it will be Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Golden Knights of Las Vegas, of course, winning the first game 5-2 on Saturday night. Gotta say, that was a very entertaining game. I didn't get to watch it from beginning to end, but I caught most of the first period, pretty well all of the second period, and there was end-to-end action. And again, I get these two teams don't move the needle when it comes to TV ratings, and, you know, this series is on TNT, you know, even tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, TNT, you know, so the ratings aren't gonna be exciting to anybody, even the NHL. But game 1 was exciting. Golden Knights win it 5-2. They kind of pulled away late. They look good. Florida didn't look bad. They just didn't get the moments and didn't get the stops. Sergei Bobrovsky was not quite standing on his head as he had in the Eastern Conference Finals and before. So game 2 gets rolling tonight. Now, looking at game 1, and this may go down as like the highlight of the entire series, but Vegas goaltender Aiden Hill, we're going to show you it again. This is from Saturday night. But want to show you this save by Aiden Hill in case you missed it. It was a dynamite save. It came at a critical moment in the Game 1 battle between the Panthers and the Golden Knights. Here's that save by Aiden Hill in net for Vegas.
Back out for Montour. Over to the right side. Oh! Cousins held that. Not across the line.
He stopped it with his paddle of his stick. An absolute wide open net in Aiden Hill. Cousins, look at this. Oh! What a stop in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final.
incredible second effort on our AT&T 5G netcam.
That's an unreal save, right? It's a game changer because, we come down and get one at the other end. So you need those saves at key moments. We didn't play our best game in front of them. I'm the first to admit that. And sometimes game ones go like that. But eventually we found a rhythm and we're able to score some goals for him. So he didn't have to be perfect by any means. But that was a big save, right? The guys get excited to see that, and for obvious reasons. I don't know what it does to them, but I know for us it picks us up.
Bruce Cassidy, head coach of the Vegas Knights, again looking for a 2-0 lead this evening. Vegas did come back. They were down early in that first game against the Panthers. Remarkably, it is the, the 9th time in their last 13 wins that the Golden Knights have been down and come back for the victory. You don't want to live that way, but they're kind of living that way. 9 times in 13 victories coming back from a deficit. 8 o'clock tonight on TNT. Current odds over at DraftKings. You got Vegas on the money line at -140. Florida is +120. The series odds have Vegas at -220 and Florida at +180. And I did want to update you on the Conn Smythe odds. Remember, that is a MVP of the playoffs, not just of this series. Sergei Bobrovsky, goalie for the Panthers, came in as a definitive, number 1 pick. Right now, it's closing up. We've got Bobrovsky at +300. Jack Eichel of Las Vegas is +330. But don't sleep on Aiden Hill. Now, is he going to make more remarkable saves? Well, probably somewhere in the series. But if somehow, some way, Vegas were to, not only win this series, but also maybe give up, less than 2 goals a game, which is a big ask. But Aiden Hill right now is +800 to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. And a lot of times people just lazily vote for the winning goalie, unless there is an offensive stud that just shines. And, Vegas may have that with Marchessault. He had another goal the other night. Jack Eichel's getting a lot of hype again. He's the number 2 pick. But if Aiden Hill were to continue to follow up what he showed in game 1, you're getting some really good odds at +800 right now. So we'll see how that one works out. That'll be in Vegas tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, as we move to our second sports information and tidbit and piece of news that will matter. Let's go to the Diamond. Specifically, let's go to Arlington, Texas. Now, I don't know how many people have been paying attention, but the Texas Rangers are like playing awesome baseball. They're nipping at the heels, honestly, of the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, Texas is proving to be unstoppable. They're going nutso on the scoreboard. Yesterday, they scored double-digit runs in a win against Seattle. That is the 16th time in 58 games that the Rangers have scored double digits. Not 6 or more or 8 or more. Double digits, 10 or more. 16 times in 58 games. Now, what's the perspective on that? How about this? The last team to do that in their first 58 games, you got to go back to the 36 Yankees. The 36 Yankees. That is how the Rangers offense is performing right now. They had double digits on Saturday. They had double digits on Sunday. They did this against one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. They were beating up on Seattle over the weekend. Let's give you a taste. Let's give you a look at how Sunday went down for the Rangers.
It makes you wonder.
Hine lifts this one out to left field. That could be trouble. Gets down, base hit. 1 run is in. Here comes Seager. He scores. A 2-run single for Jonah Hine. And the Rangers cash him in the first. Here's the 1-1. And that ball over the middle of the plate. And that thing is pounded. High in the air. Deep out to center. Gone! Seager's 6th home run of the year. And he continues an amazing tear since coming back off the IL. Runs in the inning. And Heim hits a towering blast down the right field line. And it is gone!
run.
Off the foul pole and right, a 3-run shot. And the Rangers have posted a dozen runs. Wow.
They finish it off a 12-3 victory. They scored 16 runs, by the way, on Saturday. So that's 28 runs in back-to-back games. Tonight, St. Louis Cardinals, Adam Wainwright. He will do his best to try and slow down the Texas Rangers. First pitch there is 8:05. He'll be up against Martin Perez. Now, let me run you through some numbers here. And I ran you through some numbers, but let's go specific, shall we? Like Jonah Heim. Who the hell is Jonah Heim? Jonah Heim is the guy who deserves to be your American League starting catcher at the All-Star game. Jonah Heim has 46 RBIs this season. He's got 7 home runs, 46 RBIs. He's hitting over 290. His OPS is over 820. So there's a guy, anytime your offense or your team is surprising, there's always surprising. But Jonah Heim's the big one with the Rangers. Corey Seager, you saw the home run there? Corey Seager missed like a month of baseball. Right now, he's only played 27 games this year. He has 29 RBIs. Marcus Semien, Seager's running mate at the top of the lineup, coming into tonight's game against the Cardinals, he currently has a 23-game hitting streak. Josh Young, I wanted to mention the name Josh Young, third baseman. He's a rookie with the Rangers. By the way, it's Young, J-U-N-G. Josh Young was named not only the American League Rookie of the Month in April, Josh Young was named the American League Rookie of the Month in May. I bring that up because Josh Young right now to win the American League Rookie of the Year is plus 500. Yoshida's ahead of him. And I think it's fair to say maybe Yoshida's had a better season, but you're getting Josh Young, the AL Rookie of the Year in April and May at plus 500. Why the heck not? Here's another big one, and this one surprised me. We've heard so much about the Tampa Bay Rays and how dominant they are. Check this out. Number 1 in the American League for leading in run differential, it's Texas. It's not Tampa. Texas is plus 167 after yesterday's dominating win. Further odds for you to win the World Series. Let's think big, right? The Rangers have never won the World Series. Rangers right now over at DraftKings are the 8th pick on the board. They started the year at plus 5,000 to win the World Series. And I know somebody has that ticket. Bet a lot of people have that ticket. Plus 5,000. They are currently down to plus 1,600 to win the World Series. To win the division, Texas is plus 150. They are behind the Houston Astros. To make the playoffs, they are minus 280. They opened the season at plus 205. So there ain't any money to be had in taking the Rangers to make the postseason, to make the playoffs. Could have had it in April. You're not getting it in June. Again, tonight, 8:05, Perez against Wainwright. That game will be in Arlington. Let's go to item number 3 on what does matter. We have got further investigations on the New York Yankees. I shouldn't say investigations. We got MRIs scheduled for Nestor Cortez and Aaron Judge. What will those MRIs say today? Now, I will admit we may not get the answer today because the Yankees don't play today. They had an evening game last night in LA. They won that game, by the way. But then they had to fly all the way back to the East Coast. They have a day off today. They play tomorrow. So the MRI may be today, tomorrow, whenever. But we're going to see what the situation is. Now, with Nestor Cortez, pitcher for the Yankees, he is almost assuredly going on the IL with a shoulder injury. So the Bronx Bombers continue to have issues in their rotation. They have not had a pitch thrown by either Carlos Rodon or Frankie Montas this year. And I don't see anything from either of those guys that says they're going to have a pitch thrown in the next week or two. Now, Montas is on the IL. They did get, Herman back from suspension. Severino was pitching last night. So they lose one, they gain 2, but it's more of the same. The Yankees just dealing with issue after issue after issue. Now, for Aaron Judge, you might recall on Friday last week, we told you that Stanton and Donaldson were going to be back. And lo and behold, both those guys had home runs on Friday for the Yankees. Aaron Judge did not play last night. He didn't play because of the picture you're looking at right there. On Saturday night, national broadcast on Fox, Aaron Judge made an impressive defensive play as he raced to the right field wall in LA. The dude is so big that Aaron Judge fell through the wall. He kicked the bullpen door open. You saw the photo there. And he injured his toe. Now, normally I would say, they just gave him the day off, a typical Sunday off even. It's a little different here because that game last night was on national TV. That is a game where, this is not the NBA where you just rest guys for the hell of it. Doesn't matter who in baseball, when you've got the Sunday night game of the week and your name's Aaron Judge and it's the Yankees and the Dodgers, you're playing that game. He didn't play that game, which means this toe injury may be something. Now, I don't think it's an IL stint, but we may miss a couple of games here with Aaron Judge. We'll see. They could always DH him as well. Throw somebody else out in right field. But something to follow. Both those Yankees trying to make sure they're healthy. Don't think we're going to get really good news on Cortez. Judge could be different. Right now, New York, where do they stand? They're 6 games out of the AL East, 6 behind the Rays. That is despite being 11 games over 500. And it still holds that every single team in the American League East, all of them, all 5 of them, Tampa, Baltimore, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, all of them are over 500. And again, the Yankees are 11 games over 500. They're 6 games out. No game tonight. They're home tomorrow against the Chicago White Sox, and we'll see what kind of news we get on both Cortez and Aaron Judge. Let us go to item number 4 on what will matter. It turns out that we're going to get a promotion courtesy of the Pittsburgh Pirates, not to the major leagues, though. Pirates got a sweep over the weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals. They're stabilized, if you will. Word coming out of Pittsburgh's camp that Henry Davis, their hotshot rookie catcher, is a prospect. He's coming up from AA to AAA. Now, I don't think Davis is coming up to the majors anytime soon, but he is a top-level prospect. His defense is pretty weak. Everything you read about Henry Davis right now, it's like, oh, the dude can hit, but the defense needs help. But I bring up Henry Davis being promoted to AAA because we are now in the month of June, which is now the time we may see some of these other big names promoted. We've actually seen a few already in baseball. But I think Cincinnati is absolutely an organization to watch over the next 2 weeks. Like even today, the Reds are calling up Andrew Abbott for his major league debut. He's going to be pitching tonight for the Reds. Everybody is awaiting Elly De La Cruz. Everybody is awaiting Christian Encarnacion Strand. We may see the Reds call all those guys up in June. Now, it could be July, but we could see that in June. Other names, Colton Cowser. He's an outfielder with Baltimore. You could see Gavin Williams and Bo Naylor for Cleveland. I was talking about the Guardians earlier. Gavin Williams, probably one of the top 20 to 25 players in all of minor league baseball. He could be up in that pitching staff. Bo Naylor is a catcher for the Guardians. They're getting nothing from the catcher spot. Another name to keep an eye on is maybe Kyle Harrison with the San Francisco Giants. So we're entering this month of June, and I kind of bring this up for the fantasy player out there. Some of those names may be out there. Some of those names may be worth a stash. I think De La Cruz has been gobbled up everywhere. But Encarnacion Strand, I think he could be up before Elly De La Cruz for the Reds. And it could be in the next 7 to 10 days that he's called up for Cincinnati. Finally, our 5th and last story that matters. And this isn't so much tonight, but it's something to pay attention to this week. We could be in the week, the 7-day span, where the Minnesota Vikings decide to move on from Dalvin Cook. Now, if you're not a Viking fan, a Cook fan, or you haven't been following much this summer, really for the last 2 months, the rumors have been percolating. The rumors have been out there that the Vikings are done with Dalvin Cook. Like in the offseason, they re-signed Alexander Mattison, gave him a pretty good amount of money, like a lot of money if you're a backup running back. And when Mattison signed, he kind of made mention that the Vikings assured him of the future in the backfield, or, they assured him of the situation in the backfield. Dalvin Cook's 28. Dalvin Cook's coming off of shoulder surgery. Dalvin Cook was fairly inefficient this year when you look at the advanced numbers, and Dalvin Cook cost a lot of money. Now, as we know, other big names have been released. Just 2 weeks ago, DeAndre Hopkins. Why is Dalvin Cook still with the Vikings? Well, I think Dalvin Cook's still with the Vikings because they have been trying to find a trade partner. We're down to the final stages of trying to find a trade partner. You got to find one because next week, 7 days from now, the mandatory OTAs will occur. And thus far in the voluntary OTAs, Dalvin Cook's not been there. Dalvin Cook's been working out on his own, I think, in South Florida. That's where he's from. But there is the expectation that this is decision week for the Vikings. You either just cut them and get nothing, or you find a trading partner. And there are teams out there who might be interested in Dalvin Cook. The most rumored destination is the Miami Dolphins. But it does sound like a decision will be made. And there could always be a renegotiation of his contract. I think he is the third highest paid running back right now, like $14 million against the cap for this season. But it does sound like the Vikings will have to make a decision on Dalvin Cook and his future. So something to watch going into this week. And again, mandatory OTAs next week. Training camp, just about 4.5 weeks away in the NFL. Okay, that'll do it for the 5 things that matter. When we come back, it is pack rip time. 92 Top Stadium Cup coming your way next.
Is it time to press the panic button on the Panthers after losing Game 1 to the Golden Knights? Absolutely not. Florida showed they can play with Vegas and actually outshot them. They lost because of self-inflicted mistakes. Now, give Vegas credit for playing well and taking advantage of that, but we're not getting off the Florida train after one game, not by a long shot. Take Florida plus 115 on the money line in Game 2, and we'll double down by taking the Panthers at plus 200 to win the series and the Stanley Cup.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Guess who's back? Kodak is back. Oh, yeah, baby. Kodak. Always love Top Stadium Clubs celebrating that they have Kodak produce photos. Pack Rip coming your way in just a moment right here on the 5-Pack. Do want to remind you, head over to fantasyalarm.com for the latest news and analysis on baseball, on football, PGA, best ball, and right now they got a special for those who want to subscribe to everything that Fantasy Alarm does over the next 6 months. You can actually get the total package for 50% off. All you need to do, go to fantasyalarm.com, create an account, sign up, use the promo code ALARM50, ALARM50. That'll be 50% off over the next 6 months. Okay, let's get to our pack rip, shall we? How many cards? We got 15 super premium cards coming your way, courtesy of Top Stadium Club. Unfortunately, one of the 15 is a damn checklist. Come on. Enough of this. Enough of this. Wow, it's a glossy, beautiful checklist. Holy crap. I don't care about that. Okay, what else do we got here? We're going to start things off with Marvin Freeman. There is a long story I could tell you about Marvin Freeman. I will not bore you with my Marvin Freeman story because we don't have much time. But Marvin Freeman was a hard-throwing, tall dude, if I remember. Was he 6'7"? Yeah, 6'7". Isn't it amazing? I remember Marvin Freeman as a tall dude. He was a tall dude, 6'7". Played with Atlanta, Cincinnati, Philadelphia. I think he ended up in Colorado at one point. He was still a young reliever here, kind of thinking of being a starter, but mostly a major league reliever. Kodak showed up to take a Gilberto Reyes photo. My God, does that scream spring training? Does anything scream spring training more than Gilberto Reyes down at Expos camp with one batting glove? Ugh. Oh, here, something does scream spring training more. How about Brian Bohannon? That is perhaps the most boring baseball card I've ever seen. The angle sucks. We have nothing in the background. The hat has become a part of the sky. Look at that. You can't even tell where the hat ends and the sky begins. Terrible. That may be one of the all-time worst here on the Pack Break. Boy, Top Stadium Club is not bringing it. Here's another spring training photo. Tommy Gregg. That's a unibrow, by the way, isn't it? I think it is. We'll call it Tommy Gregg and his unibrow. Outfielder, first baseman. I've said this once, I'll say it again. Top Stadium Club. Look, they provided advanced analytics. But as you can see, Tommy Gregg, insufficient major league data. So they couldn't do the advanced analytics. They could do them on Ken Hill. Ken Hill was a pretty decent right-hander for the St. Louis Cardinals. Late 80s, early 90s. Cardinals weren't very good in the late 80s, early 90s, but Ken Hill was one of those better players. Always enjoyed saying this next name. We're finally getting to some action shots. Ivan Calderon. Ivan Calderon always appeared to be a guy on the precipice of just killing the baseball. Like, he looked like a mean dude who wanted to beat up the baseball. He was mostly a swing and miss outfielder, though. I had a couple of big moments. Here's one of the best hitters of the last 25 years of the 20th century, Mr. George Brett, with those baby blue Royal uniforms. George Brett, you can see his, this was always a real attraction with Stadium Club. They would show the Topps rookie card of whatever player. That is a very famous George Brett rookie card, 1975 on that rookie card for George Brett. And by this point, 92, he moved to first base. Of course, he's known as a third baseman, but he moved to first base. Another Cardinal pitcher. He and Ken Hill teamed up a lot in the late 80s, early 90s. Jose De Leon, who came over from the White Sox, always lost a lot of games, but he pitched pretty well. But he was one of those guys who, you know, would have like a 3.5 ERA and somehow lose 15 games. We'll keep it going with the Bedrock Cardinals. Here's Tim Jones. Didn't remember that Tim Jones played for the Cardinals, came up with that organization, middle infielder. Up next in our 92 Top Stadium Club, here's Andy Allison making the all-important catch of a pop-up. I don't know about you, but every time I see a pop-up to the catcher in the major leagues, I find it is much more difficult to make that play than you would think. Now, I would expect a lot of errors, a lot of drop balls, like when catchers are jumping after pop flies and chasing them down, but they don't. They're like pros on pop flies. It's impressive. Mike Henneman, who was a closer for the Tigers. You would not know it. I mean, Mike Henneman didn't have a Fu Manchu or nothing, but he was a closer for a couple of years there. Les Lancaster, who was probably more a name to say than a game to enjoy. This photo is an actual improvement on his rookie card. Look at that. Hey, more bangs, Les. Hey, I'm a fan of bangs. But Les Lancaster, he was a big fan of bangs. Can you pull the hat down a little, Les? Tom Candiotti throwing a knuckleball, because what else did Tom Candiotti throw? Famous for the knuckleball. Has the time with the Blue Jays, the Indians as well. And then Scott Erickson, who at the time of this set in 1992 was actually one of the better pitchers in the American League. Erickson was probably about a top 15, top 20 starting pitcher for the Minnesota Twins. In 1991, let's see, 32 starts, 20 victories for Scott Erickson. Had a 3.18 ERA. So he was kind of at the fore of all those very good Twin teams in the late 80s and early 90s. So there it is. Top Stadium Club, 1992. And you thought I wouldn't have enough time to get through the pack rip. How wrong you were. Well, it helped that we got a checklist card. I got to fly through that. But we also got George Brett. I kind of like this card. This would be a great card to get autographed. Borderless, full of color, and it's a superstar. I may have to do that. I have to hunt down George over in Kansas City. Okay, that will do it for us today. Not going to be with you the rest of the week. Have a great week. We'll catch up next Monday.